Michael Moshan, attorney, unraveled the co-op and condo conundrum in New York. NYC real estate's unwritten principles to many buyers. Real estate law in New York resembles the same level of simplicity you might expect on a transaction level. You find property, get financing, and do the deal. But this is not true in New York, says Michael Moshan, attorney. New York has one of the most convoluted real estate systems in the country, he says. There are co-op boards, title issues, the artists in residence laws, and endless layers of financing structures. The attorney involved in a real estate transaction is not merely a formality, as that role is now a safeguard. Having begun his legal career in real estate in 1998 and participated in hundreds and hundreds of real estate transactions, Michael Moshan, attorney, has seen nearly every possible variation in the city's complicated real estate matters. A solo practitioner based in Manhattan, Michael Moshan runs a practice specializing in residential transactions, giving him the experience required to read the fine print that can make or break a deal. But he is not just the average attorney. His involvement adds a unique touch to the process. More so than many attorneys, his clients value Mr. His clients understand there is an attorney behind the scenes they are working with. There is no handoff to an associate or paralegal. As such, he and the client have direct lines of communication, and he understands the risks involved every step of the way, often anticipating red flags long before they occur. Co-op boards. The gatekeepers to the city. Most of the country buys property based on a financial decision, but in New York, buying into a co-op is a social decision. Co-op boards approve or deny sales at their discretion, without explanation, often causing weeks or months when a transaction is being considered. As Michael Moshan notes, many buyers underestimate the power of a board. Co-op approval is not a rubber stamp, Moshan says. I have seen buyers with perfect credit scores and strong financial positions be denied by a board because they did not think the buyer would fit with the culture of the building. Moshan's role, essentially, is much more than paperwork, albeit another function of his job. He recalls one deal with a buyer's application that was stuck hanging on one small detail, an unmentioned job change. The board has the ability to share any possible info during the review, Moshan says. Fortunately, we had kept lines of communication open, so that we could process verification of the employment within hours and help push the application through. This kind of advanced attention to detail is well known and respected among brokers and clients alike. Condo transactions. Flexible and a fine print blizzard. Condo properties are often viewed as being easier than the co-op experience, but Michael Moshan cautions condo transactions too can also become complicated too. Condo buyers think they are escaping the politics of the co-op board, but they are really just gaining layers of legal and financial rules and regulations, says Moshan. For example, buyers should be aware of the health of the building's finances, as that could potentially affect a future assessment of the building, or more importantly, a resale value of the buyer's property. The condo's offering plan, reserve fund, and bylaws can be just as important documents in this process as the purchase contract itself. Moshan concludes, a reserve fund, or aloof litigation, normally, is a sign of something quite serious. He recalls once he was able to help a client cancel a contract after he learned there was a lawsuit in the works with the condo association regarding the facade repair. That could mean six-figure assessments, he illustrates. At first, my client was heartbroken, but had they closed on the unit, I really believe they would have been simply thrilled to learn the amount of money they would not be spending. Expectation management. When deals go slow, most real estate agreements have few problems: defects in title, delayed financing, board rejection, etc. Michael Moshan sees his job basically as half advocate, half counselor. Arguably one of the most important parts of my job is managing my clients' expectations, he asserts. I'm not soft selling or minimizing perceived obstacles, but we want to make sure the client understands that even the obstacles we discuss are not a failure, it's just a part of the process. His entire process relies on communicating well, since no client should wait for days for an update, or wonder who is touching their file. Transparency builds trust, Moshan argues. Whether you are purchasing your first home, or a $5 million apartment, the client has the right to the assurance of understanding what is happening in their transaction. He remembers working with a first-time buyer, who was distressed because their mortgage commitment arrived 2 days late. Instead of letting them spiral into anxiety, he was able to walk them through the next steps and received a minor extension. It all closed, and they were out of the feeling of uncertainty, he exclaims. Most of the stress came from uncertainty. The minute a client understands the pathway forward, the tension dissipates. The negotiation arts. Negotiating in New York real estate is not about who can yell the loudest, it is about who can listen best. Early in his career, Moshan thought success lay in being the toughest, or more vocal, person at the table, but now he sees it differently. The best negotiators listen more than they speak, he says. It is more about hearing what the other side really needs and figuring out a path to get there. He recalls representing a buyer on a deal that was going to fall apart over a disagreement of around $10,000. Instead of pushing harder, he reframed the conversation. I knew it was not about the money, it was about the timing, learned Moshan. We restructured the payment, and the deal closed. Positive outcomes based on collaboration versus antagonism have earned him the respect of brokers, lenders, and opposing counsel. Learning in action. In one instance, the seller was faced with a major title defect that could jeopardize the transaction. Instead of putting on a defeatist act, I treated the situation like a puzzle to solve, shares Moshan with enthusiasm. We remember contacting prior owners, quickly bringing in an expert in title history, and were able to resolve it instead. The deal was a learning moment for Moshan in that many problems in real estate are not disasters, but are instead opportunities to explore creative solutions. These moments are what he calls differentiating moments, and that time is the distinction between a transactional or strategic lawyer. Educator, advocate, and recognized voice in the industry outside of the firm, Michael Moshan attorney is active in education. He co-created Buying into Brooklyn, a crash course for first-time homeowners, which introduces the buying process without jargon or making clients feel insecure about it. He's been quoted in the New York Times, from The Psychology of Moving to Homework for Condo Buyers, presumably to help readers understand what happens behind the curtain of New York's enticing but competitive market. A 360-degree perspective. Michael Moshan has an unusually broad view when it comes to real estate, beyond the role of lawyer, as he has been an investor and title professional as well. He has run title insurance operations, dealt with lenders, represented boards, and invested in properties in the New York area. That full-circle experience, he says, informs his perspective beyond that of just formal training. When I am looking at a deal, I am not only concerned with closing the deal, he explained. I think about what the resale potential is, what the financing structures are, and what the health of the building is more long-term. A client deserves an advocate who can navigate all parts of the ledger. His diverse experience also helps him empathize with the many stakeholders involved: buyers, sellers, brokers, and lenders. Everyone has their pressures, he said. My job is to keep a client and their interests at the forefront of the process while keeping the process really collaborative. Looking ahead. Navigating the changing market. As the market shifts, Michael Moshan attorney sees his role changing beyond pure legal work to provide advice about strategy rather than simply compliance. There are lines between legal, financial, and lifestyle decision-making that are beginning to merge, he stated. My clients expect me to help them think about timing, financing, and sometimes trending, even about the neighborhood. In New York, it is not just about closing the deal, it is about closing the deal well.